Hi guys, this is Carrie with Fullerton Professional Organizing. This podcast, we're going to talk about Chrissy Halton. I hope that's how it's pronounced, from Organize My House. And she is going to talk to you about how to tackle your paper clutter in this article. And we're going to go through this article. She has a blog at organizemyhouse.com, and her mission is to create and help you to create a home that works for you and one that you love living in. And as an interior designer and home organizer, she feels like she has a lot of great ideas for you, and she has those on her blog. But now we are going to start off with a little snapshot of the mission of this lesson is to help you to create a home that works for you and one that you love living in by minimizing paper clutter. Quick tip is paperwork and what to do with it is usually the number one thing that people want to get organized, and there are some really easy and actionable tips that you can use straight away to reduce the stress and the clutter that your paperwork is probably adding to your home life right now. Now, what she says is by reducing paper clutter, you'll feel back under control, because whether you realize it or not, your paperwork piles are causing you stress every time you see them. All right. Now, why reduce the paper clutter? So why reduce paper clutter in the first place? After all, if we're struggling to find time to deal with the paperwork, isn't just piling it up an okay solution? Well, there were three main reasons that minimizing your paperwork really is a good idea. One, it helps you feel under control, helps you find what you need, and you'll have a neater looking home. Now, first, you'll feel back under control because whether you realize it or not, your paperwork piles are causing you stress every time you see them. You keep thinking, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Secondly, you'll be able to find what you need more easily. You may have thought that creating a pile was saving you time, but in reality, it's just delaying the time spent for a later stage. And at that stage, it will cause you much more stress because you actually know that you need a specific item there and then. And the longer it takes you to find it, the more worried and stressed out that you'll get, and it's actually lost. You're already starting to stress out because you can't find it. Now, last and third is that you'll simply have a neater looking home. It's amazing just how messy a room can look when there's random paperwork everywhere. And if you take a look at your home right now, wherever room you're in, I will wager that there are a few random papers making it look a little messy and less tidy than necessary. Now, minimize what comes into your home. Minimize what comes in. Now, it stands to reason that if you can minimize the paperwork that actually comes into your home in the first place, you'll naturally reduce the paper clutter before it's even had a chance to settle. Basically, if you can lessen the amount paperwork coming in the first place, then you're setting the groundwork to not having to deal with so much from now on. Junk mail. Opting out of junk mail. So there's a quick list just to get you started. Firstly, you could register to opt out of junk mail in the post and in the post. but you just do a Google search in your country, because she's from the UK. Christy is from the UK. So if you do a Google search in your country, and you'll find the details easily, and it's normally just entering your details, and there you have it. You can keep the junk mail from coming. You may have to call them and tell them call them and have them take you off of their mail list. You may have to do it several times before it actually sinks in with them. But you can, another way is next one is to go paperless with your bills. Usually on paper bills that you get through the mail, you'll have some information about if they are for paperless, information about if they are for paperless billing, if they will be able to do that, if they're set up to do that. I'd always make sure, though, that if you go paperless, that you start to create a habit of checking your bank statement each month, just to check that everything's going out and getting paid off on time. Now, use online banking statements is a third option. You can still check everything off against your receipts at the end of the month, but you don't have the paper to go through. And you should, if you should ever need the paper, you can print it off. It's easy to print off. And email. Lastly, why not use email as your main form of contact rather than the mail, which most of us already do. But what she says you can do is have different email addresses. One email address is just for catalogs and shopping, surveys, all those information type things. And then you have your regular email for the important stuff. And really, it seems, I used to think it was hard, but you can have a different email for your business, for personal, and for shopping. You can have as many emails as you want. And then you just have to look at it whenever you want to look at it. So let me read what she says. Use that email address only for things like shopping, surveys, information emails, newsletters, etc. that you want to receive, but aren't really that important. Not important enough to give up your main email address for. Then you can check this secondary email account every week to see what you've been sent. Move them to your main email account if you need to. Now, it also says, number 2, sort paper as soon as it comes into the house. As soon as you get your mail, you should throw the junk mail right into the trash before you even come into your house. That's what I do. But she says, sort as soon as you come into the house. So unfortunately, although we've reduced what comes in, we can't reduce it completely. Have a bin handy also means you can sort to it there, and then rather than bring the pile in and potentially adding to the pile, waiting from the last few days and the last few days, go through it as you get your post, and add anything to the trash bin immediately from the following areas. Things like the junk mail, the envelopes from the mail. You don't need the envelopes. Okay, but I do most of that at the trash can outside, so it doesn't even make it into my home. All right, now this can often reduce the incoming papers by over 50%. In fact, the average American receives over 49,000 pieces of mail in their lifetime, half of which is junk mail. That really is crazy. Okay, and don't forget you should use either a paper shredder or one of those roller stamp things to protect your privacy. And you all know, what that's all about. Action when you get it. So number 3, action as much as possible when you get it. So this action does have a big payoff on it, because you don't always have the time there and then to actually do what's needed for the paperwork that we get given at any specific hour of the day. But if you can, then when you sort through your mail, try and take action right away. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it right away. And if not, if you think it's going to take longer to take action, don't open it yet. Don't open it until you're ready to take action. Then you'll know what items you took action on and what you didn't. You can simply create some kind of inbox where you can put everything together ready and safe for a time that works best for you. You know where it is, you know where you put it, and you know where to go when you have time to take action on that piece of mail. Know what you need to keep. Number 4, really know what you need to keep and what you don't need, and how long you need it. So this will help you when it comes to not only having what you really need, rather than worrying about what you maybe should keep, but not knowing either way. So in the work, since she's in the UK, she does suggest to check your country's guidelines as far as what you need to keep and what you don't. Sorry. Now, tips on what to keep. Some examples of what to keep: most up-to-date utility bills only, keep all the latest car servicing and information, birth certificates, marriage certificates, passports, etc. Keep securely for life, and any information related to house maintenance or changes, etc., are kept in a file until the day that you should move away. And then when you move away, you can either, now I like binders, you can keep a household binder and then leave it with the homeowners when you move away, or you can throw out all that information when you move because you won't need it anymore. Now, if you're self-employed, you're going to need all your taxes for 7 years. Now, she says what she does is she has 7 or 8 boxes, and each year she puts her paperwork in a box, and then she will switch out the current year for the 8th box, and then she will shred the 8th box, and then she can recycle her boxes instead of continuing to buy boxes and add to that. So that's how she takes care of hers. She says to go digital. Don't worry, this doesn't have to be some very technical and fancy solution, not at all, which this is what I thought. Now, I'm a professional organizer, but this is definitely not my strong area, so I'm going to have to study up a little more on this and start practicing what I preach so that I can help clients, especially if you own a business or you're self-employed. This is going to be the area that I need to really learn a little more on how to do, because I am not techie. So to me, in my mind, this is very stressful and overwhelming to even think about. But I do have a client that we are going to work on all of that for her, and she has about 9 boxes or more that we're going to have to go through. So I'm going to deep dive into that real soon. But let me read this again, just so that if you're like me, this will really sink in. Number 5, go digital. Don't worry, this doesn't have to be some very technical and fancy solution. Not at all. Believe me, I wouldn't be as keen to suggest it if it was. But some paperwork that you want to keep can be scanned and digitized instead of having to keep the paperwork itself. Now, this is a great option if you are short on filing space or if you want to just try to go even more paperless, and the process really is pretty easy. Scan it. There's 3 ways to take digital copies of things. You could get a home printer, which I do have, but it's not the kind that I can feed all of this stuff through. But if you do it on a regular basis, then you can keep up with it without having to scan masses and masses of it. But home printer that also has a scanning function, you could simply take a photo on your phone at sort of the worst case. And another option is you can actually get scanning apps for your phone. So you pick which is the best option for you. Then whichever option you pick, you just download it to your computer, making sure you create a backup as well. So test a few things out and see what solution works best for you and your lifestyle. So some of the things that she also uses this for is not just important paperwork. And this is an excellent idea. Use it for your children's artwork and your children's writing and sentimental items that you want to hang on to. She says, however, it's bulky and it decreases over time. The paper curls up and dries up and the ink can fade over time and all that kind of stuff. So actually trying to keep it in paper form isn't beneficial at all. The same way for Christmas cards and birthday cards. That is an excellent idea. Anything that you get from friends and family that you feel guilty about throwing out and you want to keep, but it takes up too much space if you collected it all, is to take those cards or certificates or letters from friends and family. They can all be scanned. You don't have to keep the originals, and they keep your memories really, really safe. She says she adds photos of all of these kinds of things to her family yearbook. So if you're gonna scan photos, then at their whoever's birthday it is, you can scan the birthday cards, go on about scanning the rest of the year's photos as you go. And then when it's Christmas, you scan all the birthday cards, and you can just progress throughout the entire year and make a photo book every year of all the things that you've taken photos of throughout the year. I think that is such an excellent idea. She says she adds photos of all these kinds of things to her family yearbook each year, intermingling with the photos. And it's a really, really special and personal way of doing things. Only another idea for digitizing is to just take some quick snaps of invitations or letters that you have with info for doctor's appointments, etc. They can easily just be kept on your phone until the date of your appointment, and then you can delete them. Make sure you create backups of anything that's important that you don't want to be lost, that you want to keep. So just to reiterate, if you do take a digital copy of anything, please make sure that you back it up. She uses Dropbox. I believe I use Dropbox, but there's Google Docs, there's Cloud. Make filing as easy as possible. So number 6 is make filing as easy as possible, because let's face it, if it's too complicated, then you simply won't use it, and the things will just pile up in another place waiting to be filed, creating more paper clutter than ever. Make it easier to put away than to take out. So this is her rule of thumb. Now, I thought I heard this from Cass from Clutterbug, but either way, both of them have an excellent idea. Rule of thumb is that things should always be easier to put away than to take out. So if you have loads of little subcategories for every little thing, like your car, car insurance, car this, car that, it makes it complicated. Just make one binder for all your car needs, and then it's simple. You just throw it in there, and then you're only looking through that one binder for the subcategories that you need. You don't have to have each little category all organized out. Just one category, car. Label things, and I'm gonna suggest, I don't think she suggested binders, but I am gonna throw that in there. I think it's so much easier and so much neater to just have everything in a binder. Have a car binder, have a insurance and emergency binder, because that's when you're going to need your insurance information and all that. Have a, I don't know, a travel binder, or just all the things. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But label things very broadly. Throw in the paperwork very quickly. Then filing, it's simple, and it was a revelation when she started doing that. It kept things so much simpler. Get in the habit of throwing away. Get into the habit of throwing away previous papers, and by this I mean, if you can, if you're throwing an insurance document that's for this year, then have a quick flick through and throw away the previous year's that's now out of date. That way you can just keep filing cabinet from being full. If you're going to use a filing cabinet, it just keeps the current stuff. Now, this is what I was talking about. We were going to reiterate some of this stuff that you're keeping, whether you keep it in a binder or fireproof box, or you're actually not that expensive. This is, and the last tip here is for the really, really important stuff. I'd advise not just filing away in a normal filing cabinet, but I would advise investing in a little fireproof bag or box. They're actually not that expensive, but they'll give you peace of mind so you don't lose it, or you're less likely to lose it should, the worst case scenario happens. So that you can put in your use that for birth certificates, marriage certificates, passports, your will. Those are the most important things to keep in a fireproof box or bag. My parents' house did burn down after the last hurricane that hit their town, and because all the wires had gotten wet, and it caused an electrical fire, and their house burned down. So it's, if you have important things that you don't want to burn, I would keep them in a fireproof bag. Get rid of anything you can get online. Now, that's magazines, catalogs, all of those things, manuals, and some receipts. If you purchase something at Sam's Club, all of your receipts are recorded on their website somewhere. And then you also now can keep all those receipts on your phone. So a lot of businesses has gone to the paperless receipts. So a lot of businesses, you can find those receipts online. You might want to check with those places and double check to make sure all your receipts are there, and then you can throw your receipts away and just print them out as you need them, if you need them. So the receipts, a lot of stores actually are now offering to send email receipts, which is fantastic. So you can go online even with your receipts now. And then, well, this is the perfect time to give out that their email address again, uh, rather than your main one, because then you'll have a copy of your receipts, but it won't be blocking up your main your main email. So there's an extra tip for you there. And the last one of these is, oh, we already talked about, manuals, because anytime you buy something, all those manuals are going to be online. And now, even if you have the manual, you'll probably have to go on YouTube just to figure out how other people have put it together, because sometimes manuals are hard to read and understand. So YouTube is a great resource for learning how to fix something or take care of something. All right, so you can find her. Well, first, let me do a little recap first. The takeaways for this article that Christy wrote is, it's only a good idea to keep paperwork if you need to use it again, and if you can't find it because it's buried under loads of stuff that really isn't important to keep, then you're spending way more time finding things than you really need to. Second, it's amazing just how messy a room can look when there's random paperwork everywhere. By reducing paper clutter, you will simply have a neater looking home. Get to know what you really need to keep and how long. So this will help you when it comes to not only having what you really need rather than worrying about what you maybe should keep, but not knowing either way. At least you'll know, and you'll have that peace of mind. Now, action steps to take. Minimize what comes in. Now it stands to reason that if you can minimize the paperwork that actually comes into your home in the first place, you'll naturally reduce the paper clutter before it's even had a chance to settle. Opt out of junk mail and go paperless with your bills, as well as using online banking statements. Sort paperwork as soon as it comes into your house. Trash can is your friend. Throw as much in the trash outside before you even come into the house as possible. And then when you go through your mail, throw away as much as possible right away. Let's see here. She says, sort paperwork as soon as it comes into your house. Have a bin handy by your door and immediately sort through your mail each day. 4, if something takes less than 2 minutes to take care of, just get it done then and there. 5, things should always be easier to put away than they are to get out. And 6, get in the habit of throwing things away that you don't need. For example, when you get a new insurance policy, throw away the old one. And you can find her and all of her social media at Organize My House, or you can email her directly at Christy@organizemyhouse.com. So those are ways that you can find out more about her. All right, guys, that was about paper piles, and we're going to look at more digital and paper pile organization as time goes on shortly. But I am so glad that you were listening, and come back for our next podcast. And give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, give us good reviews. If you like, the content, give me great reviews. If you don't like the content, just keep watching until you have something that you like. And I appreciate you, and come back and listen to the next podcast. Thank you.